Hello everybody and welcome back to our channel. Today we'll be reviewing Belem. It's an industrial chic table. It's characterized by its peculiar rounded joints between its legs and tabletop. Let's dive into all its details. Let's start by discussing the different formats. We have square Belem tables and rectangular Belem tables. So the square starts from a very tiny dimensions, which is 80 by 80, and the 80 by 80 works well with this sort of metal legs because they are rather thin in appearance and dimensions, and so it's compact but effective. Then you get to the 100 by 100, 120 by 120, 140 by 140, and bear in mind that with 140 by 140 you can already fit two people for each side, for a total of 8 people on the square table. And then you have also the amazing 160 by 160. You know, with the 160 by 160 you could fit 12 people, but you don't get it to dine normally with 12 people all around it. The point is that it looks spectacular, and when you dine with 8 or I would say 10 people, you have much room for every person around the table. Then we have the rectangular ones. Here, for example, we have the 220 by 100. It starts to be a stunning piece with this sort of dimensions. We start from the very compact 120 by 80, then we move on with the 140 and 160 by 90, and then we have the 180, 200s, 220 and 250 by 100. And as you can see, here we have we said the 220 by 100, and you can easily fit 8 people, free, one and one, and so it's very comfortable. You could also, considering we said the leg is rather compact, as you can see, you can also fit 10. Of course, it's all about your expectations, the length of the meal that you are planning, and also I would say the shapes and the overall dimensions of your guests. But the point is that this is very important. Compact legs not only are peculiar in the sense that using metal, you can have a real solid wood table with thin appearances and without hindering the usability of the table because of bulky legs. This is what happens sometimes with bulky wooden legs. I opened the video saying that Belem is an industrial chic table, and by industrial chic I say I'm referring to a mix between industrial design features and chic features, in the sense that, well, you see you have this peculiar rounded joint, and it's very nice, I would say, interesting how the leg intertwines with the tabletop. But also you don't have corners, you have these cut corners here with the angled leg, and the tabletop is 4 centimeters thick. But when you look at it, if you don't move far away, you perceive only a very thin line, just by a few millimeters. I guess it's 4 or 5 millimeters, and then you have this tilt here, which moves about, I would say, 10 centimeters towards the center, and so you can perceive its thickness only if you touch it or only if you move far away. Otherwise, you perceive a super thin tabletop, which in my opinion looks interesting. I would say astounding, but then you might think that I'm exaggerating my views, but I find it astounding. And I can say that, well, the fact that it's, of course, the quality of an item doesn't depend on its weight. Sometimes if you think about a chair, or you think about opening doors, actually a lighter items is most often of better quality. In this case, I can tell you that it's such an astounding piece, also because it's so heavy. It's very heavy because it's so massive in the way it is built. I'd like to point out how underneath it, maybe you could have seen it in the previous shot, there's a metal bar. Even though it's a solid oak piece, still you have two built-in metal bars here, horizontal, and on the other side, and then you have the bigger one which sprouts out vertically. But of course you cannot ever see it in your home unless you kneel on the ground or sit on the ground, and then you can perceive it. Of course, it's not for the, I would say, structural stability of the table, which is guaranteed just with the thickness of the solid oak. But I don't suggest to have parties when you stand on desk and on a table and you dance on the table, but with such a metal bar underneath, you could also do that. So let's talk about the materials. Well, we have fused glass and we have ceramics, but I can say, you can see pictures in the catalog, they are not the focal point of the Belem collection. And then you have woods. You have 9 finishes of solid oak, And these 9 finishes ranges from natural to charcoal, so the very light and the very dark finishes. This is vintage oak, and as a wood lover, I do love it. For example, we just reviewed the chairs, and on the Carmen chairs, you don't perceive, for example, the knots or the veneer and the shapes that wood creates because they are smaller pieces. But on a tabletop like this, you see knots like this, or so-called defects like these, which are then filled and covered and smoothed out. When you look at a piece of wood like this, every piece has its story and every table has its story. For example, I can purchase a table like this and I will not get an identical knot like this, and I would not get an identical shape like the one I'm seeing here, and so on. And this is what I love about wood, or in general about natural materials. It could be stone, it could be certain leathers. Well, wood gives you this variability of a natural material and also gives you the warmth that other materials cannot give you. Other variations that we can have on the wood version is that it's available also in walnut, and as much as I like the vintage and I would say industrial look of this vintage oak, well, of course the walnut version, it's very refined, elegant, I would say. Then we also have the possibility of lacquering with an open pore lacquer the solid oak that we keep underneath the paint, and so we can color your table with the RAL color scale or the NCS color scale. And so, well, if you have rather neutral chairs around it, I could imagine having transparent chairs or having leather chairs in a neutral colors. Well, I could imagine painting the tabletop in a very peculiar pastel or striking. It's what you like most. What's your take? Write it in the comments. The point is that neutral chairs, neutral ambient, I can go for a striking color for the tabletop. Also, the metal of the legs is customizable. We have 6 colors available. This is oxide decor because it's not painted with paint which covers the features of the metal, and actually just like on wood, you see, well, I cannot say the story of the metal because it doesn't have a story to tell, but you can see shades because it's not a plain color. This is very interesting. So you have 3 standard color for paint and 3 oxide finishes, which are more varied, like this one. So we've come to the end of today's product review about the Belem Industrial Chic Table. I hope that you share my enthusiasm, and see you next time.